Hello, everybody. I am very excited to introduce you to Sophie that I have back here. Sophie is one half of Sophie and Nate. We were absolutely honored to have them play a little while back in another Sounds on the Couch event on Saturday night. They're an acoustic couple currently based in Queensland. They've moved up and down the East Coast quite a bit, as I was hearing before. Their music is a laid back pop style, and they have influences of blues, roots, folk, and jazz. The pair have a passion for writing and recording their own music, and as such, they've recently released their demo, Inside Feelings, with 3 songs: Lonely at Heart, Coming Home to You, and All These Roads. So I'm very excited to introduce Sophie to you, and I will bring her up now. Hello,
Oh,
Sophie.
thanks, Kaz. That was a lovely intro. I was like, oh, how exciting.
Would
Thank
you
you.
like to jump straight in? Well, would you like to start talking about what it was that first got you into music?
Yeah, well, I I used to sing a lot as a child and was really into kind of the Bette Midler era of time and would always have old singers playing around our house, and was in every possible choir that I could get my hands on as a child. And then in about year 9, I moved to a co-ed school. I was at a girls' school for a couple of years and then went there, and it was, I think my voice kind of dropped. I've got quite a low voice now, and I was a soprano before that. And I was like, oh, I don't like this gravelly sounding voice at the time, and stopped singing completely. And I love public speaking and getting up on stage whenever I can, but the idea of singing just, yeah, it really terrified me. And then so I just stopped doing it for years, for probably about 10 years. And then maybe 4 years ago or so, my cousin, who I used to sing a fair bit with when I was like 10, she convinced me to get up at one of our family dues, and we did like a little acoustic duo with the two of us. And it was the first time I sung again, and I really loved it. And it was really, yeah, it was really exciting. So I started slowly doing that, and then I met my partner, who is Nate of Sophie and Nate, who sends his apologies today. And he was a singer-songwriter, and we met actually at a garage sale of one of my friends, Porter, who is also an incredible singer. And she was someone who knew me from early high school, and so she was like, yeah, let's jam some songs together. And I was feeling particularly bold that day, so I was singing along as well, and so was Nate. And he was new to the city, and so we were like, let's start a band. And it was very plutonic, and like we were like really good friends for a while, and then we moved in together, fell in love, and now we've been dating and playing music together for the last
Romantic.
2.5 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my singing journey.
And I think something you touched on at the start of that was public speaking. So many people would be so afraid of getting up there to public speak. How do you think the fear with getting up and singing was different to the public speaking?
Yeah, it was quite bizarre because I was always a very confident child and adolescent, and loved the idea of any kind of emceeing event. I was like, I'll do it. That's great. It's like wonderful. I get to just chat at random to randoms and they have to listen. Wonderful. and but then singing to me, I don't know, it just had this sense of vulnerability, I think, and a chance of getting it wrong, which I know feels so probably quite ridiculous saying it out loud now, but yeah, it felt like a really different sense of self. And also, I think probably being trained a lot as a child, and being in particular choirs as well, I just could feel that my voice wasn't particularly right, and the little like semitones that were off. Instead of thinking, oh, that sounds unique and interesting, I'd be like, oh no, that's incorrect, as opposed to actually, I think, taking it and running with that. So I was fine with any kind of karaoke or joke singing in the car, but it would always be, as loud as my group of friends can be singing Shania Twain. But as opposed to actually doing something which I felt, as a really vulnerable experience, singing, which is quite bizarre given my whole family is very musically inclined, and we actually have a family musical thing every year as our family reunion. We have about 100 people come to this little music at Macca's, and everybody has a time slot to sing and play music. It's great. Yeah.
I have actually heard a quote somewhere before. I don't know where it came from, so don't ask me. But it's that when you speak, it's like the voice of, you know, who we are now. I can't remember the wording, but when you sing, it's the voice of the soul. And I think that
Yeah.
does definitely explain a lot of that vulnerability that you get when you do sing. It's interesting.
Yeah, completely.
So what was it that made you decide to become a full-time musician?
Yeah, well, my background's pretty different. I did politics in my undergrad and I did law after that at Melbourne Uni. And through that time, I was looking at doing human rights law, and the idea of going to The Hague and prosecuting against war crimes and just light stuff. And towards the end, and I always absolutely adored school and I really loved uni. But I went straight through the 6 years without breaking anything up or having the gap year or doing anything like that. And at the end, I I always secretly, I think, wanted to be an actress and singer and all of that kind of a thing. But I was like, no, I'll just do that on the side, and never ended up actually pursuing any of that. And then for a few years, so I worked for Amnesty in London and the Refugee Centre in Sydney, and a few bits and pieces like that, including a tech for disability startup that's based in Sydney for a couple of years. And then, like, I'm 28 now, and so probably started about maybe 2 years ago, just doing a few casual gigs on the side with Nate. And then more and more, I was like, this is the time to give something a whirl if I actually want to try this. And it's not a side hustle. It's too it's too kind of hard to actually be creative in working a 9 to 5 job and then kind of coming home and doing an hour at night. I really applaud people that do it, but for me anyway, I think was trying to still do that. No, I can do this, and then for 1 hour, right, we're being creative now. We've got a half an hour slot. Let's go. Surprisingly, nothing came out of that very much. So we did our kind of cover gigs around Sydney for a while, but never really wrote anything. And I think, again, that vulnerability of writing something as well, and then that thought of immediately putting something out there and people being like, no, I'm not very into it. And you're like, okay, that's fine. Sure. Great. Oh God. Kind of caught me up in it, as opposed to being like, well, I enjoy writing and singing songs, and that needs to be enough. and enjoy just the process of it. So kind of transitioned, working a bit in film anyway, towards the end of last year. And most of, we were earning kind of our full-time wages being musicians and doing bits and pieces of acting work as well. Up until, of course, COVID, where you're like, oh, stability in jobs sometimes is fun. So it's been a bit of a nightmare recently, but yeah.
So what has your experience been through COVID?
Well, originally we were planning on moving overseas, so we actually packed up out of Sydney, and with the plans to move to Canada in Feb, and went away for maybe 3 weeks to write music, which we ended up writing our core group of songs then, in Kangaroo Valley at a friend's place. And unfortunately, we started the isolation just a little bit too early, and we were like, we don't want to speak to anyone. We don't want anybody in our grill. And it was just before everything happened. We were like, oh, it would have been really great to get in those last couple of hangouts with friends. But yeah, so we kind of, after that, ended up going down to Victoria and thought about the idea of moving back to Melbourne, which is where like a lot of my core group of friends are. So yes, but that's taken us on various journeys of things of about to move into a house, and then kind of everything in Melbourne happened, and we were planning on getting our things out of storage in Sydney, and kind of went back up there, and then thought, well, we can't really go back to Melbourne because the borders are now closing, so we want to make sure we stay isolated somewhere. And it's taken us up to Queensland where my brother lives, and I get the positive chance of actually meeting my nephew and being the only one in the family that's able to meet my nephew for the first time, who's 4 months old and gorgeous. So it's yeah, so we're going to stay in Queensland, I think, until the end of the year, which is an incredibly lucky spot to be right now. So yeah.
Absolutely. No, beautiful. So let's go back to your music and writing. So what's your creative process as a couple? Who is there somebody that's more involved with the songwriting? Or
Yeah. Well, Nate used to be, so all of the songs that we did previous to the COVID era of time were songs that Nate had written, and also written the music for as well. And then since that time, when we went down to Kangaroo Valley and started writing together, it's been pretty much Nate. The actual process of Nate is usually fiddling around with the guitar. He's an incredible guitarist, and will be playing various things, and might come up with a particular riff and melody, and then usually from there I'll do the lyrics and the melody of the actual song. But most of the ones we've actually got out at the moment have been ones that have just come out like within a 15-minute kind of period. I think that's how both of us have decided the way that we like to write the most. It's like just comes out, we like press record on the phone recorder, and then we just kind of see how it goes for 20 minutes, and then just stop it, and then type up all of the lyrics, and I'm like, oh cool, that's what I was saying, oh good. And then we'll workshop them a bit from there of like, that makes no sense at all, like let's change this. So it's yeah, definitely. So it's really collaborative, and Nate's like heavily involved as well with that kind of writing part. Like for instance, well, Lonely at Heart was one of the ones that was particularly collaborative because it came out of like a few lines that were just the chorus, and then we went back and started playing the actual verses, and all I could think of then was just like verse about, I think like maybe 6 or 7 verses. And Nate was like, we need to cut this down, Sophie, like this can't be a 10-minute song. And then we kind of like went back to a bit more of a structure, and cut and pasted a few things within that one. And then for instance, So Much Safer, which is something that we've put up on our Instagram, but we haven't recorded it or anything yet. That was a song that Nate wrote the lyrics for and the music for, and so it's kind of been a bit of give and take of a few things, and there'll be a few songs that I like record on my phone, and then I come back to him and he'll kind of do the music for. But that's generally our flow.
yeah, no, it sounds beautiful. I guess if we go into your releases, so we'll jump into the demo that you've released. It's called Inside Feelings, with the
Little colon thing.
colon, that's the word I'm looking for. Inside
Which is
colon.
based on the fact that it's like there's just a lot of emotions going on in all of the songs. It's like, oh, this is how I'm feeling so much, and all of us are trapped inside.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask, I thought there was quite a theme going on with those songs, and was there a message that you were trying to put across when you put those songs together, when they were your choice?
Yeah, kind of. I think that, well, the 3 in particular that we recorded first, and as a heads up, if anybody does head to our Spotify or anything like that, it's we were kind of planning on getting all of our songs, so our 8 or so songs recorded properly. And it was as everything was hitting and jobs, we work a lot of our freelance jobs as well, and all of those were going. And we were like, probably not the best time to drop a lot of money on a recording studio. So with the thought of we're not sure when the next time we'll actually be able to record, we were like, let's just do it at home. We'll put out some demos out there, and then at least we can kind of feel like we're progressing and keeping going with the spirit that we really enjoy playing, and that hopefully some people connect to the songs. But yeah, so they're all kind of done on GarageBand at home by Nate. But yeah, I think each of the songs feel quite different, but all of them are coming from probably quite a genuine space of I'm quite a positive person across the board, but I think all of us at this time as well, like, feel dark and lost and confused and unsure what we're doing with everything. And I'm loving all of the really positive content that's coming out during this period of time that definitely lifts me up and makes me feel really good. And some of the songs that are like really that kind of feeling. But I also think that it's really important to actually sit in the feelings that we are feeling, which is rubbish a lot of the time, and confused and unsure when we're going to be back on. And I think that there's a lot of really lonely people out there as well right now, that especially when we think of Victoria at the moment, of people that live by themselves, for instance, and don't have the ability to now go or see anybody at all. And yeah, it's kind of sitting in those feelings as well, of being like, yeah, I'm feeling for you, and it sucks. So that's a part of Lonely at Heart, was with a bit of that in mind, of being like, I think we all kind of feel that way, and I know I certainly do. And it's so that was definitely with that.
Yeah, I think it's really strong as well to be able to see. I think a lot of the time it's easy to think that you're the only one feeling those feelings, and to be able to share that message, it's beautiful. Yeah. And I didn't mention for everybody the names of all the songs in their demo release either. So the names are Lonely at Heart, which was just mentioned, Coming Home to You, and All These Roads. And you've also got some other tracks coming out that you've recorded as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Would you like to go through those songs? Like, do they follow on from what you've already started creating with your demo?
Yeah. Well, I think Happiness in particular was one that very much we were hoping to have recorded to actually put in that first demo, because it's definitely part of that. I think especially coming from me, it felt like really quite genuine in a lot of the lost and confusion that I am feeling at the moment, especially with career choices and what we're all going on. And so it's a little bit of I think all of our songs are quite very laid back and quite have that vibe to them. So definitely Happiness is on that. But the other ones of and So Much Safer, which Nate wrote, which is kind of also on a similar theme of the world kind of crumbling around us all, and that feeling of wanting to help and not really being sure of what you can do in a lot of senses. But Hold You To and She Knows It, which are two other ones, are probably a little bit more of random, slightly more upbeat as Nate and I usually get in our singing. But Hold You To was probably a little bit of a shout out to a lot of some of my girl cousins and some of my best friends that have had this as well, of dating guys in our younger years and being like, I know I probably should really like you, but I don't know why, I'm just not really that keen. And so it's like, based on the fact of like, I just don't really want to hold you too. But I think you think that I'm great, and I think that you're kind of great. So this should kind of work, but just for some reason, we don't. We're missing the mark with each other completely here, but are both
Yeah.
being like, yeah, everything's great, cool, wonderful. So that was a bit of a song for that.
Yeah.
And she knows it. Nate kind of led the writing of the chorus of this, and the theme, which was somebody kind of burning the wick at both ends, and feeling like they're kind of quite overwhelmed and always like really busy and probably quite frantic and everything, but also just really loving it and falling into it and being like, yes, kind of feel like a basket case a bit of the time, but you know what? I'm into it. So
Yeah.
maybe a bit of an ode to my vibe, hard to say, but yeah, it's one of my favorite ones. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to actually putting that one out there a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I can't wait till they're released. So when are you actually planning on releasing those songs?
So they'll be in the next 2 months. We don't have an exact date yet, but yeah, it will be. We've got the little teasers on our Instagram page now of kind of acoustic, chilled versions of them all,
Yeah.
and then yeah, the actual release on onto Spotify and SoundCloud, and all the things. Yeah, it will be in 2 months with a date TVC.
So keep a
Yeah,
lookout, everyone.
yeah.
So, through the process you've been through, obviously it's been a bit different because of COVID. But what would you recommend if somebody is watching this and they're inspired to get out there and release their own music? What would you recommend to other artists that are looking to do that?
I think like the best advice that I got when I was particularly like, oh, we probably can't release something yet because we need this and we need these other steps. And I kind of like looked back on a lot of my other experiences with music being like it was always something. It was, oh, I can't really play guitar very well, so I need to wait for that, and I need to wait for, every little like step of the way, as opposed to, I could have very easily reached out to one of my multiple friends that played guitar and were like, hey, can you sing a few songs with me? And so it was always that next step. So I'd say probably for anybody that wants to release stuff, would be to just record a, record anything, even if it's on your phone or like a live version on a small like $50 mic or like whatever it is, as just something to put out there and feel like you're going to the next stage. And then I know for us, it really helped as well, when we were gigging kind of full time. I was quite shocked with how quickly it happened. It went from emailing people and never hearing back from anyone because we just didn't have any content out there. And neither of us are very good with social media, and we are very slow on it and like barely upload anything.
Yeah.
And it was like, of course, we're not really getting gigs. And as soon as we just started having a few little bits and pieces in like on a few of the different pages, of literally 2 songs of recording them with our iPhone. Then by the end of the year, we had gigs every Friday, Saturday night, and a few times through the week, and with a couple of like weddings or whatever it was in between. And yeah, so I'd say just like put some stuff out there. We're like in an incredible era and period of time that we can kind of take a lot of that into our own hands. And yeah, and I'd say also connect with other musicians, because the few gigs that we've done with musicians either before or after us playing, of actually like really supporting their work and sticking around for the 4 hour show or whatever, that you get to listen to incredible artists that have beautiful original music, and then that are now like good friends of ours, as well. And then, when we can't do a gig, we'll like message them immediately being like, oh, we got asked to do this. Do one of you guys want to do it? And the opposite way around always happens as well. So yeah, definitely. And things like Sounds on the Couch are so good for that, of even listening to the girls that played before us on our show like the few weeks ago. It's been like really lovely seeing like Kelsey's show last week, and when she did then her solo show, I was like, oh, great, like wonderful. And yeah, so I think that would be my thoughts.
Fantastic answers. Is there anything else before we finish up? Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
um Probably not really. Just actually like a thank you to you, Kaz, and Sounds on the Couch, because it's really fantastic, like having at this time where everybody feels isolated and not very connected, and for musicians in particular, not being able to do live gigs. And I'm very awkward on live streams, music wise. I'm like, nobody's clapping. Oh God, I must fill it
It
with
does come
words
across.
immediately. And so like having something where you actually like share and celebrate people's work, and you get to see new artists' work delivered to you in like bite-sized pieces every week, I think is really fantastic. So yeah,
Thank you so
congratulations. That's all I would say.
Thank you very
It's great.
much. And just quickly, for anybody who would like to check out Sophie and Nate's music, they have a profile at Sounds on the Couch at www.soundsonthecouch. And would you like to maybe just share a couple of links that they can find you on if they're wanting to find your music?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're at Sophie and Nate underscore. Sophie and Nate was taken, unfortunately, on Instagram. So you can find us there on that, and that has our links to other music. And we're just Sophie and Nate on Spotify and SoundCloud and all of the things. So yeah, hopefully you'll be able to find us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sophie. It's been an absolute honor.
Oh, thank you so much, Kaz. I've had a great time. Thank you.